Hello. This is hot. Yeah, it's hot. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carrie Ebersol Singh. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Talent Solutions Officer at Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and really excited to have an additional conversation today about the Talent Action Team focused on semiconductor work and our ecosystem development to deepen high-tech fields and talent to help support our employers grow and meet their needs and find success in our state and expand and grow, but also to be attractive to other companies that may be looking out there. We are in the hunt for a number of opportunities, whether it's in the research and development, but also additional manufacturing. Thankfully for much of the federal CHIPS Act investment, as well as some of the investments on the EV battery front as well. This is a critical moment in time to leverage those investments and ensure that Michigan is pulling down our fair share. We're on strict orders from the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor to compete and outpace others. And we're going to talk a little bit about PACE and a little bit about our partnerships here with our amazing university presidents that are represented today with Grand Valley State University, President Mantella, and then Dr. Pink with Ferris State University. And then we have industry represented with A.B. Ghosh, Hemlock Semiconductor. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And Jonathan Smith with Labor and Economic Opportunity, that State Department. And then, of course, I'm going to kick it over to our stand tall Lieutenant Governor, Garland Gilchrist.
So thank you, Carrie. I guess, first of all, I want an unfair share of federal resources, to be very clear. I think so the charge was for us to win all of the federal money. I mean, the truth is, for the governor and I, we want to make sure that we are really capitalizing on this moment. I think we have amazing alignment and consensus around the fact that in order for us to grow in the way that we want to grow as a state, in order to keep the people we need to keep in Michigan, and in order to attract the people we need to attract to Michigan, we have to get this right. And that's going to take a broad commitment and specific investments. And I think the work that we've done thus far hits both of those categories quite well. And I'm really excited to continue the conversation with our higher education leadership, our private sector partners who've chosen to invest in Michigan in ways that we greatly appreciate. And our goal is that the efforts, whether it's the Semiconductor Talent Action Team that we announced last week?
They technically announced it in December.
I mean, okay, let me be more specific. When we told you how much money we were going to spend on it last week.
Yes.
So that I think is an illustration of the kind of efforts that we want to do. We have specific areas of strategic interest in terms of the sectors that we want to grow in the state of Michigan, because these are sectors that are important and foundational to making sure that we can create the kinds of jobs, can spur the kind of entrepreneurship in the value chains related to the semiconductor space, that we can inspire the type of research and draw down the types of research dollars that we need, and that we can get the right kind of folks who want to go into this profession. So whether it is to help widen the pathways into the degree programs that will be required, including the both four-year degrees and the technical and technician pathways that we need for this, whether it is support for people who are looking then to launch businesses somewhere in the value chain to make sure that they have that kind of state support. We just want people to know the state of Michigan is ready to be a partner. And so that investment is one that I really think captures how we want to approach several key areas. I mean, we have this talent action team in semiconductors. We have one with electrified vehicles. We'll have other sort of targeted investments as well. But ultimately, we want to lay a foundation for the present and the future. In the present, we need to win stuff today. And we need investments today. It's not something that we can talk about as like a far out plan, because we have things that we're competing for right now. At the same time, we also want people who are coming up through Michigan schools to know that they have a future and have a place in the future here in the state of Michigan and in an industry that is exciting and that's growing. Sometimes I feel like, and I've experienced this as I came of age in Michigan, that I wanted to kind of, to quote Wayne Gretzky, I wanted to skate where the puck was going. And I thought the puck was going toward software, service, and technology for me. And in 2005, that's why I went where I went. But we've done a lot of work since '05 to make it so that people who want to skate where the puck is going can see that puck staying in Michigan. And so our opportunity, therefore, is to just make sure that we are doubling down on the investments in the kind of people, the kind of infrastructure, the kind of partnerships that we need in order to be successful. And so I'm very excited about that. The governor and I are very excited about it. It's key to our Growing Michigan Together plan. And so you're going to hear more about that from us, not just for the rest of the conference, but for the months and years to come. And we're proud to be at the table with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say, often when we have these talks and press events, we talk about our kids and having a future here in Michigan. I have a bracelet my son made that, as a reminder today, that a lot of our work all is contributing to generating that future that we want, that is going to be bright and have lots of opportunity. Speaking of opportunity, labor and economic opportunity, Jonathan Smith, why don't you offer some remarks?
Sure, thanks, Carrie. So I'm Jonathan Smith. I'm the Chief Deputy Director at the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. In 2019, Governor Whitmer and Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist created LEO because they saw the value in putting all of the state's economic development, workforce development, and community investment functions into a single department. And, I think that was a really smart decision. And as we sit here today and talk about it, we can sort of think about why. When site selectors and employers, when they tell us the number one factor for them when they're thinking about where they want to make a decision, they say it's talent and workforce. And so, really getting the alignment between our state's workforce agency and our economic development corporation to make sure that we're not only producing in the short term the trained workforce we need to fill these critical opening roles, but we're actually addressing some of the structural deficits we have in our state when it comes to workforce. So another great thing the administration did was create a goal, 60 by 30, 60% of our state's adult workforce having a industry recognized credential or degree by 2030. And so the Office of 60 by 30 within LEO works closely with MEDC and others in state government to try to align all of our state programs towards that goal. We administer the Reconnect Scholarship Program, which is an important pathway, provides free community college or industry recognized credential to adult learners. But it does more than that. It really is a strategy office designed to ensure that we meet this goal. And so as an example, the Going Pro Talent Fund program, which many employers use to train their workforce, we've aligned it with our 60 by 30 goal so that now when you apply, you are more likely to receive an award if you're providing your workers with a credential or with community college credit. And that's really important because we know that as educational attainment and skills attainment goes up, wages go up. We know it creates more economic opportunity, not just for the employer who's getting the value of a trained workforce, but to the benefit really accrues to the employee as well. And every employer benefits from the structural improvements we've made in our workforce. And we know this is working because the wages, when we look at the wages of workers trained through Going Pro, 6 months after receiving training, on average, their wages have gone up $6,000. So, that's a really substantial increase for families in Michigan. And ultimately, that's what this is all about. Like, we're not just trying to create jobs for the sake of creating jobs. We want more Michiganders to have more economic opportunity. And job creation through these high-tech fields is one way we get there. And so having economic development and workforce aligned is a way to make sure that the benefit of that is really shared with every Michigander in every community.
Well said. And now, I got to tell you how lucky we are to have two of the most innovative, energetic folks and with higher ed. And I want to start with Grand Valley State University and President Mantella. So please take it away.
And Carrie, we like each other.
Yes.
Right? We really like each other.
That's exactly right.
So, I haven't shared much about my personal story, and it really is a story of returning to Michigan, so I'd like to do that. I've spent all of my career in higher ed. Early on, I was in Michigan, got my PhD at Michigan State, worked up at Ferris State, and then moved back east where home was and worked in New York and Boston. And part of my work was to look at examining areas of the country that were moving fast in their economic development And in fact, their higher ed was not keeping pace. And figuring out how to put light infrastructures and programs in place to accelerate that. Come back to Michigan and see the incredible growth, the incredible moment of opportunity. It came 4 years ago. I couldn't have foreshadowed the pandemic, but everything else seemed to suggest that Michigan was at a particular moment in time. And the natural resources, the economic development that occurred, the leadership we had in the state, all of that coming to an institution that really embraces the opportunity to be in the economic development space and in learning, and see those two as absolutely doing the same work. Because if we do well by people, we're educating them for a lifetime, but we're educating them for their next job and being sure that they have a progression ladder so they don't top out where they are. And so I'm just super grateful you asked me to be here today, and grateful to have the opportunity. And I would say feel an incredible sense of urgency about it. I said yesterday when we were together on a panel that I do think it's a bit of a window for us, and we have to move through that very aggressively. And happy to partner and share on how we do that, because I think we're in a rare moment.
Yeah, that's so true. And Dr. Pink with Fair State University, I got to say this moment, and this conference is exciting because you can feel it as well in terms of some of the economic plans and the talent focus that we have had many sessions on. But it is a moment and exciting. And I got to tell you, I want everyone in this room, people complain sometimes about higher ed, about being a little slow. See, this is why I get in trouble. I get in trouble because I talk about these things. But guess what? In our work, our collaboration has been so close. We can talk at the president level, we can talk to the deans of engineering and beyond to get that focus, to get that customization. Not to get ahead of the story, but I just want to say I am grateful for your leadership, because you are part of the solution in terms of generating opportunity for the folks here. So, Dr. Pink, take it away.
Yes, Carrie, thank you. But my goodness, if you give me another half hour, we can really talk about that. Because we have to, in higher education, I think never in my career have I seen higher education at the point we're at now, in terms of, especially in Michigan, in terms of opportunity versus proving value, the value proposition of higher education. So opportunity, because we have right now, as my good friend to my right, President Mantella mentioned, we have an incredible opportunity. Awesome window that's open. Last time I checked, windows don't stay open forever. So that means that when a window is open, you need to take advantage of it. So we have an executive office with the governor and lieutenant governor who see and are investing in a budget that says, here's the value of higher education in our eyes. We have a Senate and a House that have come out the same way. Here's what we see in higher education. In my years of being involved in higher education, notice you didn't hear that number. In my years of being involved in higher education, never have I had that opportunity and that pleasure to say, here's what you have in front of you, but it also means, what do we do about that? What do we do about that? So there's opportunity there, and we have to step through this at the right moment, because the moment doesn't last forever. So on our campus at Ferris State, one of the things that I love to do when I talk to students, several questions they know I'm going to ask them. What's your name? Where are you from? What are you majoring in? What are you going to do with that major? And then the fifth question is always, and where are you going to do that? Where do you want to land? And if they came from Michigan, I always notice the first one, where are you from? And if that equals that last question, oh, I want to stay in Michigan, or I want to go back home where I came from, how do we do that? How do we make sure we can help you do that? What's depressing for me are those students who say, oh, and then I'm leaving to, no, wait a minute. Let's talk about what it means to stay in our state. Let's talk about what it means for us to make sure that when you finish a degree at Ferris State University, that there is a pathway for you to not only get into a great career path, not just a job, get into a great career path, but then also do that in our state, stay in our state. And the way that happens, in my opinion, of having been in higher ed for so long, the way that happens is when we have pathways, gorged, driven, sure pathways that lead from the university to the companies, to our industry partners. That an industry partner is already on the other end saying, and we've got a job for you. And even before you finish, we have that position for you. And welcome to this job. Welcome to this career path. The more higher education can make sure we are about those type of partnerships, the better off we are in retaining our Michiganders. And in some cases of what I try to do as well, those who say I'm from Indiana, I'm from Ohio, well, let's talk about you staying in Michigan. Let's talk about us keeping you here. But that value proposition in terms of those pathways have to be made for our students. Our students have to see what that looks like. And they have to get into that space and say, this is where I want to stay. This is where I want to be. And so that, to me, is the beauty of conversations like this, when you've got industry at the table, you've got the state at the table, you've got higher education at the table. When we can draw out those pathways, that is when we are hitting the sweet spot and we are able to extend the window of opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Pink. And that's no better transition to bring in our industry partner, Chairman and CEO A.B. Ghosh with Hemlock Semiconductor. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure I can say a whole lot more than what Dr. Pink said. It's awesome. It's really good to have a partner like yourselves in this industry. So just for any information, I mean, Hemlock, we're located in mid-Michigan, Great Lakes Bay region. We've been around since 1961. So we're a manufacturing company. You know, we have engineers, technicians, all the trades you can think of, we hire. And, you know, what we do, polysilicon, for people who don't know, you don't think of it as a semiconductor. We're basically the foundational building block that goes into making a silicon chip. And frankly, you know, it's a bit like saying you can't have a peanut butter sandwich without peanut butter, or you can't have a chip without polysilicon. And, you know, and our biggest challenge going forward, like all manufacturing in Michigan, pretty much all the nation, is talent, having ready workforce. And so building a Michigan talent pipeline is going to require long-term collaboration between industry, higher ed, and state. I mean, I couldn't put it any better. So I think the initiative, I want to thank the governor, lieutenant governor, and the MEDC to start this initiative back in, I think, Q4 of last year. And the first fruits have come out last week. But we got a long way to go. Yes. You know, we got a long way to go, but I do think if we started this journey and we stay the course, that's what I'm most concerned about, that we stay the course and we don't move on to the next objective, then we can be the #1 state to attract the talent in the semiconductor and the EV mobility space. But this is crucial. This is really, 30 minutes will not give us justice, do this justice. We need to keep talking and actioning this.
Absolutely. And I want to open this up to questions, but just highlighting a couple of pieces that I know your team, who's been working hand in glove with us to help identify your greatest needs, that we can work with higher ed. And community colleges aren't present at the table today, but we work with them a lot as well. So I know Steve Robinson has been on panels with Lansing Community College, and there's a number of other presidents here as well. So I want to highlight that technician through the PhD level in that semiconductor industry is really, really important. And we've identified 5 positions with our group of employers we've been working with, and we're not going anywhere. I'll keep harassing Jason and the team, but you know, we're just really excited for how this is coming together, and how you also mentioned, we've touched on recruitment strategies and retaining and growing talent and attracting talent, and that is going to be a continuation, again, collectively, because our value proposition is like no other. But I want to turn it back over to the Lieutenant Governor, and one question that we teed up, let's talk about tech hubs, EDA grant opportunities. How are we going to win?
So, first of all, I'm really excited about this. For folks to know that the governor and I really pressed hard for the CHIPS and Science Act to pass with great haste. And that was in part because we recognize the seminal importance of the semiconductor industry to the future economy and to today's economy, as we saw with so many of our automobiles and other things that we manufacture here that were sort of hung up in the semiconductor squeeze. But so the other pieces, though, that we were very excited about from the Chips and Science Act were this idea that we could make specific investments in building capacity for the development of future technologies in this country, that are technologies that, frankly, we haven't all the way thought of yet, that haven't been invented yet, or that are in nascent stages that are ready to scale. And a big component of this is this opportunity through the EDA in the Department of Commerce to create regional tech hubs all across the nation. And as someone who comes from that space, I am very selfishly interested in having many of them in Michigan. And so to that end, working with MEDC, working with community partners, education partners, et cetera, I've led 5 conversations across Michigan, one in Detroit, one in East Lansing, one in Grand Rapids, one in Ann Arbor, and a third that was a regional conversation for Northern Michigan that was focused on how can we identify and align the unique assets and interests of these different regions in Michigan, and how can they then best represent themselves in this future economy. And then thirdly, and I'll tell you why this is third, how can we then organize those into strong applications to win one or more of the 5 regional hubs that will be funded from this federal government, this Biden-Harris administration government. That would mean a $25 million investment per hub in wherever those hubs land. Those conversations started. We will be culminating those conversations with a technology summit that will be hosted on June 9th. It's next Friday, whatever day next Friday is, where sort of everyone will come together around what our opportunities are. The reason that the winning of the Tech Hub grant funding from the federal government is the third priority is because the organizing work, the identification of current and future partnership and collaboration opportunities, that is what ultimately will be the combination of resources that will lead to us winning in the technology space in Michigan, changing the capital environment, developing and attracting new entrepreneurs, smoothing out pathways for technology transfer. The Tech Hub piece is something that we may be able to leverage in additional ways, but ultimately I think we have the institutional and capital resources to make that level of investment in Michigan in multiple places. We can do that without the federal government. Now, I will take all the Biden-Harris administration's money. I said that earlier. We want to have as many federal resources invested here as we can. But we also have opportunities for institutions to step up like this right now. But we need to do the thinking and the organizing to make sure that we have a strategy that makes sense, that is coherent, that we have consensus and buy-in about. And I'm excited about that opportunity to therefore be able to take what's happening in Michigan to the next level so that we can have, again, more companies founded in Michigan, more companies scaling in Michigan, more companies getting funding in Michigan, more unicorn companies being developed in technology spaces, and then identify new industries for Michigan to not only just define, but to lead and dominate. And so I'm very excited about what this can represent for our state. And again, that will help us, again, develop, retain, and attract the kinds of knowledge economy professionals, the kinds of engineering folks who are going to be at the bleeding edge of these companies that then will create all the rest of the jobs that we're looking for in our communities. And so that's what this represents. So it's about tech, but it's honestly, it's bigger than that. It's about all of us.
I know we could continue just talking for a long time, but I want to open it up to the media in case there's questions that come to mind at this moment in time. I want to say generally, I kind of brought up what is sometimes referred to about higher ed. I also want to say sometimes folks refer to employers as here today, gone tomorrow. They don't stay at the table, but you're hearing this type of commitment from Hemlock is here today. We are hearing this from other players that want to continue working hand in glove with education because everyone understands the stakes at hand in terms of developing talent and meeting needs. So any questions? Or we can wrap. Everyone's hungry for lunch. Okay.
Andy Miniger with MERS News. I'm wondering if there's any monetary incentives that you guys have thought about putting into place for the pipeline?
So one of the pieces we launched last week that the Lieutenant Governor referred to is about $3 million. It's small. We're piloting this year on the Talent Action Team to work with higher ed institutions. There'll be an RFI that is posted now on our website at michiganbusiness.org, and going out to higher ed institutions to fill out what would be strategic investments to help expand curriculum courses, customize curriculum, and meet that capacity needs in those 5 focus positions. So that's one area. There's going to be an additional announcement later this summer where we are looking to mirror the EV Scholars program that we launched with the Talent Action Team on EV and mobility, where that is a $10,000 scholarship opportunity for graduating seniors that out of college that sign on with a Michigan-based employer for at least a year. So that work is culminating through that small investment that we're putting towards, but we're really excited. I know Jason, I'm referring to Jason a lot with Hemlock, who I know, the industry was really encouraged to hear about this scholarship opportunity. Again, we talk about retention and attraction of talent. This is a pilot testing, is this tool and instrument going to help increase retention in these specific degrees? So it's definitely part of the learning curve that we are on board. But do you want to mention something?
Well, just it's adjacent to this question of the amount of money that's been committed thus far. This is again about identifying basically how much more money we should put forward. That's kind of what the pilot will seek to address. But I do want to connect it to the other sort of, we're also building more apparatus for excellence in the semiconductor space. And so we also made an announcement about the Semiconductor Center for Excellence that we've launched here with a number of industry partners and higher ed partners in the state of Michigan, because this talent action team piece is about talent coming into the space. The Center for Excellence is about how do we push the space itself forward, which again will identify directions in which this whole area can grow so that the pie can be even bigger for us to then put more people and empower more people to be part of this part of the economy as well. So that's also a big important component of this for us as well.
And I'll just say, folks may have seen there was some data released this week that we, once again saw declining enrollment at our post-secondary institutions. We've got, historically, we're at a pretty low point in terms of the number of high school students who are going on into some sort of post-secondary education. The state's actually done a really amazing job over the last 2 years investing in programs like Futures for Frontliners, the Reconnect program, and the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. And so I think when I talk to community college presidents, they tell us the numbers for community colleges were a little less bad than the 4 years, and they really attribute that to the Reconnect Scholars Program. So in the governor's budget request this year were 3 programs that are really important in filling that pipeline and making sure that we have the talent that we need in the state, not only in the short term, but in the long term as well. One of those is expanding the Reconnect program from 25 down to 21 and up. And so that would mean the Achievement Scholarship will be making sure that we have tuition-free pathways for kids to go to community college, and in some cases 4-year institutions with the Achievement Scholarship, and then the Reconnect will pick up adult learners starting at 21. So huge investments in access. 2 other really important things. If we just pay for access, and you made this point yesterday, we've done a great job of paying for access. We have, as a state, have not invested in success and attainment. And so our post-secondary partners, we have not been as generous with them as other states have in funding student success strategies and in funding things like wraparound supports that make sure, particularly these adult learners who are non-traditional, that when they're coming to the classroom, that they have resources to make sure that they can stay enrolled, that they can show up at class, they can get that certificate or degree. And so the governor's budget request had funding for 2 programs. One was for wraparound supports. The other was for what was called a College Success Fund to do just that, to give our partners in the post-secondary system the resources they need to help their students stay enrolled, and also to implement some expensive upfront but long-term great ROI, sort of best practices. If we can make these improvements and investments in student success, eventually they pay off because for the school, through increased enrollment and retention. So huge investments that would make a really measurable difference in the size of our talent pipeline in future years and would reverse some of these negative trends we've seen just in the last few.
Just a comment from the higher ed side. I think the job we have to do is try to be sure that for every dollar spent, state dollar spent, we're also committing matching dollars from an institutional standpoint. We're encouraging our industry partners. We've had, over a dozen industry partners invest in scaling quickly at Grand Valley new program innovations with our commitment to maintain them in perpetuity. But it gives us the capital to move today because even, with the great that you commented on the budget this year, it's historic in the last 30 years, to see some investment in higher ed. Even with that coming, we want to move today. So to be able to start that investment, we're really thinking about how can we bring other dollars, because it can't be done on the institution alone, it can't be done on the state alone, it can't be done together. We've got to combine forces here in a really meaningful way.
Just real quick on that, I love the idea of how, from a perspective of the student success piece, and not just moving a student into, but also to completion. That is very important. I also would encourage, as we look at some of these dollars, to even start even more so on dialing in stronger on how we truly attract and expose students to opportunities. So when you talk about a lot of these type of programs, when you talk about some of the things at our university, we have incredible programs that many students have no clue about. They don't know. What do you mean by a heavy equipment program? What does that mean? Oh, I don't want to. Well, if you see the technology involved in a heavy equipment program in terms of not only the implements that you are managing, that you're driving, but to see the technology of GPS and all those things, it equals a level of technology for students that say, I had no idea that that's what that entails. And so as we continue this, to make sure both ends of the pipeline are strong, the end of the pipeline that feeds them to our industry partners, but also that pipeline that brings them in, because that's going to be so important.
Yeah. And that is, we're playing off each other now, just more and more. We have the STEM Forward internship program. That experiential learning, work and learn opportunities are key both for students and employers. Part of the program, we're very much looking at this from a PK to career and beyond, because this is a lifetime learning operation. I'm done with the mic, sorry.
Can I just add
Yes,
one
please,
before
sir.
you final,
Please,
before you finish? Yes, I've had the conversation with Brooke and I last week with Delta College president about exactly having pathway to us, because we have a lot of hiring requests over the next couple of years, and to have that commitment that we will hire the people, because we need folks 2 years, 4 years, and some folks who don't want to get to it, which is, we need a whole spectrum. But before we forget, economic development is great and education is great, but we got to make sure we have, which I think the governor talked about yesterday, livable places for us, for the next generation, i.e. affordable housing, transportation, arts, and open spaces, and to make it. Otherwise, we'll get them educated, and guess what? They'll go to other parts of the United States. So that's all I just want to say that made that comment.
No, thank you. And that really, I think, more to come as the legislature and the governor's office finishes off the budget for this year, because I think a lot of these pieces are really starting to align. So if there's no other questions, I think we're going to, okay, Courtney's wrapping us up. Okay, thank you.